Welcome to the Ellis podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen and fans of the show, we have a special treat for you today, and I mean it. I'm calling this pre-Super Bowl party, and it's a preview of the Super Bowl, but it's with two of my great friends, Kevin Murphy and David Buckler. Really excited to get on here and talk Super Bowl with them, reconnect, and just laugh a lot, talk a lot of sports, talk a lot of Super Bowl, whether it's the game, betting, whatever. And this was a really good one to record, a lot of fun. So hope you enjoy it. If you are interested in continuing to see podcasts like this on YouTube, definitely click the subscribe button and a thumbs up on the episode. You can find it at Ellis Media. And again, that is on YouTube. You can also follow me on X and Instagram at LSHQ. And if you are in the car and just want to listen to the podcast, you can find us on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple and Spotify and any other really podcasting software that's out there. So really want to jump right into this. Enjoy the recording, and I hope you do too. All right, everybody, we are here with some very special guests. Of course, we've got Murph in remote studio, I should say. Murph, it's good to see you. It's been a long time.
It's good to see you as well, Jamie. I'm sorry we haven't been able to get together. Let's not let this happen again.
We're busy. I thought you were still down in Miami, to be honest with you.
Part of me is.
I'm sure. And then we've got somebody else here. We've got David Buckler in the studio. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing great to be here with you and Murph today, talking football. Looking forward to the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, obviously, we are here to preview the Super Bowl, talk about all things Seattle, New England, NFL. Buckler, I know it's a big day for you. It's big NBA day for you, so hate to pull you away from that. But we're going to focus on the NFL today. We're going to focus on the Super Bowl.
I actually prefer that because the NBA I think I need a new therapist after what's going on in pro basketball. So let's just stick with football today.
Especially what's going on in Memphis, let's be honest. But
you know what, Jamie, you know what's not going on in Memphis? Winning. So yeah.
Oh my
that's
God.
what's not going on. So let's talk Super Bowl 60.
Let's talk Super Bowl. So look, guys, if we had this at the beginning of the year, despite the conspiracy theories that this was already planned and stuff like that, Seattle and New England. I mean, did anybody expect this, really? What do you think?
Buck, go ahead.
Wait a minute, Jamie. When you say what are the conspiracy theories, I have not heard. Why would this be a conspiracy theory for this Super Bowl?
So
have you heard the stuff about the color-coded Super Bowl emblem?
There was a Super Bowl sign, a moniker, something like that, and it had the stadium in the background, and it had all the NFL quarterbacks lined up like on the road to the Super Bowl. And they had all the quarterbacks, and the two in the very front were Drake May and Sam Darnold.
Well, let me just be very clear with you guys. I was not in on this conspiracy because this would not at all be the Super Bowl that I would prefer. In fact, I'm not very excited for the game when it comes to the teams involved. However, I will say that it is a very good X and O Super Bowl. If you look at it from a standpoint of the coaches, the players, you know, the ownership groups, these teams are really, really good. But this was not at all the teams that I was hoping to see this coming weekend.
Murph, we talked about this a little bit. Yeah, I mean, are we excited about this? Like, we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, Jamie and I were talking just a little earlier. I'm lukewarm. It doesn't really necessarily have the sex appeal, the flair that I normally feel around Super Bowl Sunday. And I'm still going to watch, obviously. I'm hoping for a very good game. I do have secretly some things I'm rooting for, but it doesn't have the, to use the expression, must-see TV. I don't know if this is a must-see Super Bowl. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, it's obviously two great teams, like you said, David. I mean, it's you do have some youth, right? You've got the Drake May, very exciting.
Well, yeah, Jamie, I would push back. I don't think they're great teams. And let's just start there. I don't think there's a great team in the NFL. One of the things you asked us was general talk about the season. I think it's a very mediocre NFL right now that has a couple good storylines, but very, very few excellent teams. both these teams are 14-3. But did you feel like this was a dominant season from each of these teams? I did not. Now, again, there are good storylines like Josh Allen in Buffalo is a great storyline. Baker Mayfield early on in the year. The Colts early on in the year. Great storylines. But I would push back strongly. I think both these teams are okay in today's football climate, but would get murdered by some of the better NFL Super Bowl winners we've had.
If you take a look at their 14 wins by, yes, they're not a typical. 14 was a number, right? If you won 14 games in the NFL, you were special. I agree with Buck. I don't think these teams are special. I don't think they go 14 wins 2 years ago. I don't think they go 14 wins 4 years ago.
But is that the league? Is that the parity of the league nowadays? Is that their fault? Because when I look at Seattle and I see, look, they had six wins against playoff teams this year, right? They beat Pittsburgh handily. They beat Jacksonville. They beat Houston. They beat the Rams in overtime. They beat Carolina, San Francisco. Now, of course, as I'm going through those teams, I'm like, yeah, they beat Jacksonville. They beat Houston. Like, not exciting teams. It's not, the Steelers back in the day or the Cowboys back in the day. But is it just where we are in the NFL right now?
I think it's a dichotomy about, by the way, Jamie, you stole my statistic about the wins against playoff teams for Seattle. Don't steal my material.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be out of material by 6:30 tonight. But yeah. But now let me be very clear. I think the problem is you have teams like the Ravens that pay a ton of money to their quarterback, or the Bills pay a ton of money to these starting quarterbacks. But because of that, look at the Cowboys, all this money to Dak Prescott, and they're thin everywhere else. Then you go and you look at a team like the Patriots that are paying Drake May nothing, and they have good depth at other key spots, but they don't have the sizzle of the big stars up front. So it's a weird league. It's like by the time you pay Trevor Lawrence, or by the time you pay Josh Allen, you don't have any money left to pay good players, above average players at other positions.
Yeah.
I think Buckler, that is something I wanted to get into, was if we look at the Final Four of the NFL and we looked at what was spent on the quarterback position, right?
Yeah.
These were teams that did not overspend at the quarterback position, right? And had the money to fill the roster with quality and depth. So I think that's something that the NFL has to look at. Do you remember the reality when it was almost like a light switch went off and all of a sudden running backs weren't valued? Running backs, you can't pay a running back a lot of money. You can't, you know what I mean? I wonder if the formula is going to start to look like, I'd rather have a 7 out of 10 quarterback and a great roster than the 9 out of 10 quarterback and maybe not the pieces and parts that get me to the game in February.
Isn't that what San Francisco kind of is doing with Brock Purdy a little bit?
Well, I think, Jamie, I think it's what Seattle's done. I think they signed Sam Darnold to a very reasonable contract. And is he that much worse than Dak Prescott? For all the money that Dallas is paying Dak Prescott, Darnold to me is on a pretty reasonable deal. And here they are in the Super Bowl because they have depth throughout the roster. But, I think this was a year in the NFL that's a transition year where we still think of Mahomes as great. We still think of Josh Allen as great. The turnovers in that game against Denver were inexcusable for a player that we think is the best player in the world. We still think that Lamar Jackson's unbelievable. Is he? Because what I'm seeing is there's some teams that are on the rise that I really think this is going to be a transition year. To me, this is going to be one of the weaker Super Bowl champions we've had in the history of the league. Not that they're not deserving, but this is not the 95 Cowboys or the 88 Niners or something like that.
I'll double down with Buck. I think when he says a transition year, does it hinder the teams that are in these long contracts with quarterbacks, their growth? Like, do we see Dallas suffer more than they already have, right? Because of that contract. Do we see teams that have made that commitment? And Dave, I think he's on to something with the transition. Will we see a quarterback get paid what we did last year, what we saw last year?
Yeah, it's a good question. That balance does seem to filter through the league. Let me ask you this. What teams would have made you feel differently? What teams, if they were in the Super Bowl this year, would have made you say, you know what, this is what we expect. This feels like vintage NFL. Is there anybody, or do you feel like it's just so prevalent throughout the league? Like if this was Buffalo against the Rams or something like that, would have you felt differently?
I'll take it first, Buck. I think I would have, and I don't know if I'm right, but if we had a Buffalo Rams Super Bowl, yeah, to me it would feel like those are two pretty powerful teams, and but you got to play the game. You can't make that fumble for Josh Allen.
I think the reason we say Buffalo is because we like Josh Allen.
Well, I agree, and I almost bit my tongue there.
The story of Josh Allen is but they're very thin. I mean, Buffalo has no receiving core. Their defense is average. James Cook is good, but they're not a complete team. They didn't even win their division.
You said the story of Josh Allen. What about the story of the Bills, right? And the Super Bowl.
And the story of the Bills.
I think there's a lot of America that was secretly rooting for the Bills.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. So one of the things I asked you guys ahead of time was I wanted you each to take a team, and I don't know if any of us feel strongly like one team or the other. Sure, it would be great to see New England win with a young quarterback. I think that would be fun. I think some people would say seeing Sam Darnold win would be great. North Carolina, you put that in every podcast, I swear. But
he's a graduate.
That correspondence course was pretty good.
Sort of. Murph, I do the crossword puzzle every month. Get off my back.
So Buckler took Seattle. Murph, you took the Patriots. Dave, make an argument. Make an argument for Seattle. Why is Seattle going to win this Super Bowl?
Yeah, and I think even though I don't love the story of either of these teams, however, I do think it's a good matchup on the field. I think it's very even. I think Murph and I could switch here and make a case for the other team. It should be an entertaining game on Sunday because these teams play close, entertaining games. I think Seattle's going to win for these reasons, Jamie. I think their coaching is very, very good. I think they have no holes through the roster, even though I don't think they're elite anywhere, but they're very good everywhere. They have nice balance with pass and run, and I think their special teams is very, very good. Look at their 3 losses this year by a total of 9 points. The Seahawks play close, tough games. And don't forget, they had a very good division with the Rams and the Niners. This isn't the Brady years where they kicked the shit out of the AFC East. The Seahawks won a good division, and I think that's going to play out here. 14-3, they had I believe the 4th hardest schedule in the league. They play close games. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for Sam Darnold. I feel like this, even though it's not a very hot take, whatever we want to call it, I think he's going to play well enough, and the defense is strong enough to fluster May, who can be turnover prone. And I think May's going to make a few plays in the first half that they're going to come back to regret in the 4th quarter when he brings them back. Do you want a prediction? Are we doing predictions now or later?
Let's hold on to the predictions. We'll do those at the end. But you made a lot of really good points there. The one that I really honed in on when I was looking at these, some of the numbers, I do think their special teams is better. I think their field goal kick.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Like their field goal kicker, his 41 field goals are second in the league, right? Now he's 85%, but that's hard to tell. You'd have to look at the distances of those field goals and so forth. But I remember the Patriots kicker in a game earlier in the year, they almost lost a game because of a relatively short kick that he missed. I also look at kickoff coverage and things like that, and Seattle's pretty darn good, 3rd in the league, yards per kick return. Those little things mean a lot.
They mean a ton, Jamie, and 5 yards here and 7 yards there and a holding penalty here on a kickoff return. Those are huge, huge factors in what the next play is. What play do we call? And so I think Buckler hit on the point that bothers me with the Patriots is I think that the roster on the Seattle Seahawks is about as strong of a roster. Like Dave said, they're not great in anything, but man, 1 through 53 is a solid player doing their job, doing their thing. So I think special teams are going to be a big factor in this game. I don't know if it means touchdown, turnover, anything like that, but just yardage, field position. I think special teams are going to play a big part.
Yeah, and I did want to say, when I was looking at the Seahawks, I saw a lot of positives. The one thing that does really concern me if I'm a Seahawks coach is the interior of the offensive line against that New England front. And
Defensive line.
I really like Seattle's receiving core. I like their balance and offense, but if they don't give Darnold time to step up and throw, for a guy who can be turnover prone, you could see Darnold having some difficulty pushing the ball down the field. So, and obviously the Seahawks know this too. So it's going to be very interesting to watch how they block the middle of the line. Do they bring in a tight end to chip? But that's a little bit of a weakness. I did read that mobile quarterbacks and tight ends also on the defensive side gave the Seahawks trouble. And the Patriots have a mobile quarterback and they have good depth at tight end. So I think, as confident as I am that Seattle's going to win this, there is absolutely a path, and we'll hear more from Murph on this too, but there's a path for New England to win the championship.
I feel like New England's defense, the more time has gone on, they've been a pretty good defensive team, like you said, especially up the middle. They had some injuries on their offensive line, but those have healed up a little bit now too. And one thing is Darnold is not mobile, right? May can be flushed out of the pocket and can pick up yards with his legs. So yeah, those are really good points. One thing you said, Dave, that I want to ask Kevin about, you mentioned coaching. Agree, Seattle's got a really great young coach, but isn't Mike Vrabel becoming one of the I don't want to say one of the greats. It's too early to say that, but he is currently one of the super head coaches in the NFL. I feel like what he did with Tennessee and now taking over this New England team. Kevin, what do you think about that?
I think Vrabel is on a trajectory to be one of the greats. He's shown a commitment to the profession, right? He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the headaches. He's driven and he wants to win. I feel that, you have a player coach and sometimes that goes one way and sometimes it goes the other way. Vrabel finds a way to, I think, squeeze the most out of, once again, I'm going to say player 1 through 53 on that roster and get the very, very most out of them that he can. And you think about it, why? Well, here's a guy that isn't that much older than you, but a lot of you know his story. You know about him with the Patriots. He was coached by Bill Belichick. He was on all these great teams. Obviously, he knows what winning looks like, right? He knows what it takes to win. He's a very hard guy if you are the 52nd guy on the roster and he tells you you need to be stepping up your game in practice and I don't think you're prepared. If you don't listen to Vrabel, shame on you. That's a guy that knows what it looks like and what it takes to be successful. So I think the buy-in is very easy with Mike Vrabel. I think he's likable. I think he's a likable guy. I don't think he is on a pedestal. I think if given the choice, he'd be having a beer with the guys in the hotel lobby if he could, instead of be doing the head coach interviews. So I don't know about skill set as a coach. I can tell you the Patriots will be prepared. I do not think the stage will be too big. I think, should I go into my Patriots?
Yeah. I was going to say, make your argument. Yeah. I want to hear what you say. Yeah.
So coaching, I do give the benefit or the coaching, the wow factor, I give it to Seattle. But you look at Vrabel, he screams gritty. He is a player's coach. Been there before. He's not talking out of school. He's not talking about something he hoped he had done in his career. He's talking about something he's done in his career, and he has the rings to show it. So I think what he says is going to be listened to and valued. And I think more important than anything is these 2 weeks, how you spent these 2 weeks. Vrabel, I have to think, gave his team some of the best player advice on how to handle these 2 weeks from the championship game to the Super Bowl. How do you make it productive? How do you stay fresh? How do you peak at the right time? How do you make sure you're doing the right things? I think he would be better. I think he did probably as good a job as anybody with that. Talking about the Patriots, I do think, like, when you watch last year's Super Bowl, it did not take long for you to realize that the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs was in trouble. Mike Tyson used to say, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. Well, you can be the Seattle offensive line coach, and you can sit there and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I like that matchup. I like this matchup. I think our guy can do this. You don't know until that ball is hiked and the defensive tackle engages that offensive tackle. You're going to know very early who's in trouble on that front line and who isn't. And I think that's going to be something to watch early in the game. Is not so much, I think early in the game, I really will be interested to follow the play calling for Seattle. Like Buck said, the protection that Seattle chooses to use in passing situations and those one-on-one defensive line matchups. That's what I have circled more than anything is the interior of the Patriots against the offensive line of Seattle. What goes well with that of a strong secondary? The Patriots have a strong secondary. They have some guys back there that work extremely well with each other. If you watch them, they flow well, right? Like they all sort of move in sequence. I don't think there were, I just think the combination between the defensive line against Seattle's offensive line and a good secondary, I don't want to call them great, but a good secondary could present the issues for Seattle. I do think it's important that first half, like Buck said, if Drake May, what kind of game do you call if you're the Patriots? Do you put him in a position where he could make a mistake, or do you sort of play it close to the vest? Because I think everything Buck said, I could see a bad pass, an errant pass, and that being picked off, and then a short field for Seattle and a touchdown, and you're chasing that 7 points the rest of the game. So I think it'll be interesting to see if we see the Patriots come out guns blaring. They feel really good. If you see them play it tight and maybe the first 3 possessions are punts, that could happen. So overall though, I think, like Buck said, I think we're going to see a great game. I think both teams have a better than a fighter's chance, puncher's chance, and I hope I'm right. And I would take the Patriots and the points.
I got to add to that. Yeah. And the points, yeah. I have to add to that. I never gave that enough thought, what you said, Kevin, about Vrabel understanding the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And understanding how to get the team ready. You know better than Jamie and I the routine that a football player goes through. And I would think having that week off is not ideal. Maybe it helps a couple injured players, but they like routine and to get back out there. And having his Super Bowl experience, that's a great point. Now, I would add to that this is why sports is so wonderful, because everyone would say Sean Payton is a really wonderful head coach in the NFL, but Sean, take the fucking points, right? You have a 7-point lead and with a backup quarterback, and you can have a chip shot field goal to make it 10-0. And he ran some kind of goofy rollout with his backup quarterback. The minute he did that and it was incomplete, I said, well, the Patriots are going to win this game.
And he had to know that bad weather was on the horizon.
And he had to know that.
Somebody had to know that.
Exactly.
Right?
That's so true, Jamie. But I guess the point is, let me real quick, Kevin. The point is, we can say, man, I'll tell you, this Vrabel guy, great guy. Once the bright lights are on, people make weird decisions sometimes. I mean, I thought Sean Payton really hurt his team's chances to win. I do not expect Vrabel to do that here, but we don't know. This is his first Super Bowl, as it is with Mike McDonald in Seattle. I would give New England the head coaching edge, though, for your points, Kevin. By the way, one thing that's kind of fun about Vrabel is I think he's the big guy in the room, like tough, guys are like good to follow him. He's a tough, big, strong guy. He's been there. He was a linebacker in the NFL. Then he's also not afraid to say he would cut off 6 inches of his dick to win the Super Bowl this weekend. And aside from being slightly envious to have that much extra, I thought he can say kind of goofy things without coming across like weird, like the guy in Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you you don't have to check. He isn't having anybody write he isn't having anybody spell out interview responses. He sort of just goes up there and answers the question. Buck, I really, really think that about Vrabel, about having the knowledge and the experience to handle those 2 weeks is important, because you can lose. You can lose a lot of focus. You can lose a lot of energy. How do you handle yourself? Who's better than that than Vrabel? So I think that's going to go a long way. I do really, really think we will know so much about this game and how it goes in the first 2 possessions for each team.
And also,
we're either going to see we're going to see deadlock, right? A total deadlock, or we're going to see, oh my God, Patriots are getting in there, or the Patriots aren't getting in, because the Patriots aren't getting in there. That spells long-term trouble in the second half.
Yeah, Jamie, one thing that Kevin mentioned there was, what kind of game are the Patriots going to call? And I think that adds extra importance in a game where you don't have Hall of Fame players all over the place. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you can call a bad play, but Michael Irvin just makes it work. You can call a bad play and Travis Kelce gets open, right? Or sometimes Deion Sanders just makes a play. I'm sorry, I'm a little Cowboys heavy, but Peyton Manning can take a broken play and
you're right.
turn it into something special.
I agree with that.
I don't know that we have a lot. I mean,
I agree
gave
with
us
that, but
notes, Jamie, on. I'm sorry, real quick. You gave us notes on, what do you think of Travion Henderson? What do you think of Kenneth Walker? What do you think of Stephon Diggs? I mean, good, right? So the scheme is going to be critical. Kevin hit on that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
I do think Jackson Smith and Njigba, if I'm saying it right, JSN, he's a special player to me. Like, I'm not saying he's a Michael Irvin. When I look at this game, he might be the best player on the field overall. I think he's a very special talent. Hear what you're saying though, Dave, about it's not Peyton Manning, it's not it's not Tom Brady out on the field. I was going to say, if only Vrabel had a Hall of Fame coach that he could lean on here and ask questions to, but unfortunately he doesn't have a Hall of Fame coach to lean on. But
his Hall of Fame coach is taking his girlfriend roller skating.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting just to, in this playoff, if you look at Drake May, first time in the playoffs, obviously, and you look at his performance, I have to bring this up. And it is questionable, did he have some shoulder issues or whatever? But, playoffs, he 43 of 77, which is a 56% completion percentage. Not great. 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a rating of 84. Like I said, 1 rushing touchdown, and he rushes the ball, 24 attempts for 141 yards. 6 fumbles in the playoffs. So 6 fumbles and 2 interceptions for a guy that for the year was completing 72% of his passes at a rating of 113.5. Is the limelight just a little bit too big for him right now? Or was it a shoulder injury? And like you said, Kevin, when he gets under that center, I'm a little worried for the Patriots if they don't get out to a fast start.
A fast start or an even start?
Or an even start. I agree. An even start. Yeah. If it's a game like Denver, I think we all feel pretty good for New England, right? If Seattle comes out throwing the ball downfield and they go up 10-0, 13-0, I don't know. I don't know if New England has the ability to come back from that.
Let's double down on one thing that Buckler brought up, because it was absolutely amazing to me. Sean Payton's decision making in that game. Once again, you have a Vrabel, right, who has been there, has been down in Super Bowls, has come back to win Super Bowls. Like, I thought that move by Payton, we could do a whole segment on it, because it was just such a panicked decision after he got done saying all week that his backup quarterback was as good as most starters in the NFL and this and that. But when push came to shove, he panicked. He thought he needed 7, and then once he made that mistake, I think in his head, he got in his own head. And I think it led to probably what is at least 3 more questionable decisions that are made by the head coach that he made in that game, that I just thought, I was just shocked. I think he He just lost a little bit of composure, definitely hit some panic buttons. And if you say one thing, say it. Don't say it and not mean it. And to sit there and say you had all the confidence in the world in your quarterback and you made that decision spoke differently.
But again, I go back to how that impacts this game in that what you said about Vrabel is so important and how this game is coached because, like Denver had the NFL Defensive Player of the Year last year, Patrick Surtain II. It's not Reggie White, not Lawrence Taylor. I mean, he's okay. I mean, Patrick Surtain might be a first ballot cornerback Hall of Fame player, but is he impacting the outcome of these games? No disrespect to him, but the point is that if these teams aren't coached well on Sunday, they don't have the individual playmakers to overcome that. Think about the NBA. The reason the NBA, you need a guy who can make a shot at the end of the shot clock. When he's double teamed, Kobe would rise up and make a shot. Not all the time do things go as planned. So if you have a guy, and Patrick Mahomes is great at this. They don't have a ton of talent in Kansas City, but he always converts that 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
And sometimes
I think you're 100% right, Buck. Like when you talked about the examples you talked about, and you hear coaches always say this, he gets us out of bad plays, right? And usually they're talking about a quarterback who makes an adjustment. But how many times have we seen that, right? Like just that Mahomes elusiveness, right? To get out of a problem where you thought you were going to get a sack for -7 yards and he runs for 15.
Exactly.
Right? And a first down. Yeah, I don't think there's a player on either side of the team, on either side, that can make that play. I agree, Buck. And so it'll be interesting how you mitigate that.
Right. And so what happened, and you mentioned about chasing points. So everything looks fine when we're talking here. Darnold's going to hit the tight ends, and he's going to swing out to Kenneth Walker. Well, not if you're down 21-3. Now you need Darnold to go deep down the middle, and we don't know if he can do it at that level in the Super Bowl. Same with the Patriots. Interesting, this is the first game really for all the players involved, most anyway. And how are they going to respond when they might have to start doing things they're not very comfortable doing?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I will say though, if a team's down 21-3, if it's New England, they're not coming back and winning the game. If it's Seattle, I do think Darnold and that team has the ability to come back more so. I think they do have more playmakers. Again, JSN, I think, is a really good playmaker.
He's a first-team All-Pro.
Yeah, even Cooper Kupp. Like, I know Cooper Kupp is not what he once was, but he is, he's a serviceable receiver. So, one thing to look at, if you look at turnovers during the year, let's see here, turnovers lost. The Patriots had the 23rd most turnovers lost during the season. Seattle, 2nd most. So that is something to watch. The turnovers are going to play an important part of this game, no doubt about it.
I think I want to argue with that though, Jamie. I don't think there's a team playing on Sunday that can overcome a 21-3 deficit. If you've paid millions of dollars for a commercial in the second half and that game is 21-3 at halftime, you lost money. Nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to be around the food table or something, but they're not going to be watching that game because if you give New England a 21-3, they'll take the air out of the ball like in basketball. They'll burn that clock and get their ring, and that game might end up.
Kevin, this goes right into what we were saying about having that special player. When the Patriots were down 28-3 to Atlanta, they still had Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
And Brady gave the Patriots that belief. This is a Hall of Fame guy. You're right. I don't think either team comes back 21-3 in this game, and I think
it's got to stay close.
Yeah, and that's where the running games that are fairly good for both teams. I did think it was interesting that the Seahawks are extremely balanced on offense. A top 10 in both rushing and passing. They need that, though. Again, if that gets out of whack and all of a sudden Darnold's got to throw 50 times, I don't like their chances.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So where do we go from here? What you guys have your thoughts together on who's going to win this game? I mean, Murph, you already kind of played your bluff, but overall,
I'll go first because I did show my cards. You want me to go first, Jamie? Since I already said it, actually,
I would love to.
I'm Patriots in the points.
Patriots
in a tight game.
Give me a final score.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Is it 4.5, Murph? Is it 4.5 right now?
I didn't. I haven't gotten.
It was
the
That's
four
what
and a
it
half
opened, I
this
think.
morning. It is a 4.5 right now on FanDuel.
The over under really has me perplexed.
45.5.
Do they get to 38 points? I don't know. I don't know that they do. I'm going to definitely take the under. Give me I hate to say it always like that, but give me a 24-21. I'm joking. I think it's going to be like a 21. I'm going to go 21-14 Patriots.
21-14 Patriots. Let me just say this, Dave, before you give your pick.
A very unpopular pick, but that's what I think.
It's good. It's good. When I look at what Darnold's done in the playoffs, he's completing 67% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 103 rating. He's played pretty darn well in the playoffs. And even if you go back to the end of the season, he had some tough games where I was like, yeah, this is where Darnold's going to throw his 3 picks and he's going to look. He actually looked pretty good. So saying that, drum roll, Dave, what are you thinking?
Right, and Sam Darnold's going to be the reason Seattle doesn't win. No matter what the score is or no matter what the problem is, they're going to say Sam Darnold wasn't good enough. And it's not fair to him because I saw Josh Allen play terrible football in the playoffs this year. And by the way, C.J. Stroud embarrassed himself for the Houston Texans. So, quarterbacks that we think are like, oh, they're ascending, Sam Darnold's fine. In my opinion, he will not be at any level the reason the Seahawks lose this game. He's fine. I am a little nervous about the fact that New England is undervalued because they play in cold New England. Given that Seattle plays in the nice balmy upper Northwest, the Patriots statistically might be undervalued because they're playing in that cold and the snow and they grind, and we'll see. They have a nice team. I really think, though, we're overthinking it a little bit. I think the Seahawks are going to win the game 31-20. I think the Patriots make mistakes in the first half. I mentioned it before. I think it's going to be like a 14-3, 17-10 halftime Seattle lead, and it's going to be too much for the Patriots to overcome. I do not see either of these teams coming back by 14+ in this game, but I am a little interested about a cold weather team now playing in nice California, and maybe they're a little bit better than their statistics show because of the regionality of the Patriots compared to the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's a really good point on the weather and playing up in New England versus up in the Pacific Northwest. But then I have to look at the schedule too. And if I'm looking at these statistics, how overvalued are the New England Patriots statistics from playing a schedule that included the Raiders at home, the Steelers at home, the Panthers at home. Listen to this. The Panthers at home, the Browns at home, the Falcons, the Jets, the Giants, the Dolphins. It has not been a tough schedule for them by any means. So maybe that works itself out. Dave, what was your final score again?
I have 31-20 Seattle. 4.5 is an interesting spread. I could see it's 31-20 and the Patriots backdoor cover.
Yeah.
And make it 31-27. Yeah. Or Murph, you said like 24-20, something like that. That little extra half point, probably if I was betting the game, I would take the Patriots.
I like what you said about overthinking it, Dave. I mean, I like when you look at this game, I do look at some of the playmakers. I think Seattle's got more playmakers than New England does. No, this is not the Dallas Cowboys of years gone by or the 49ers of the 80s or anything like that. But I do think they have better playmakers. I think it's pretty simple to me. I've got Seattle 27-13. I don't think New England's going to be able to keep up. I think Drake May is going to struggle. I think he's going to be forced out of the pocket a lot. Yeah, he's going to run the ball. He's going to get some first downs. I think he's going to make some mistakes, interceptions, fumble. I just clearly feel good about Seattle in this game and would feel good
Buckler,
about the
I was surprised. I'm sorry, Buckler. I was surprised at the point total. I really am not expecting a lot of points. I'm expecting a lot of punts.
Yeah, no, so I've heard just from people throughout the week on TV and other people talking about the game, they're expecting a low-scoring game. One thing to keep in mind, these new kickoff rules, it seems like every team's in field goal range after a first down.
It's a joke.
So, And I do really like the Seattle special teams. And there's been times Drake May can throw the deep ball. Darnold can throw the deep ball. They do have targets. I don't think it's going to be a 14-7 game.
You get.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
If you get a kickoff, you essentially have to go 20 yards before your kicker can kick a field goal, because number one, they're kicking 60-yard field goals now, like it's like there's nothing to do about it. And you're starting at the 35-yard line, the 35-yard line. So, well, that's our official picks. Now I want to change it or turn it a little bit to Super Bowl MVP. And I think it's probably obvious based on who we're picking, who we are likely to say is the Super Bowl MVP. But I'm going to throw it out there. You've got, and I'll include odds here. So if you were a betting person, if you were just making it up, because I know we don't gamble, if you had Sam Darnold at plus 115, Drake May at plus 230, JSN is third, by the way, at plus 550. Kenneth Walker is plus 850. And I'll stop there. Okay. That's four players. Where are you putting your money?
Go ahead, Buck. I don't know that. You have to have one, right? They have to have an MVP.
They have to have an MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the Oscars. They have to have an Oscar-winning movie every year, even though there's sometimes not really good.
Even though it's not great, right? Yeah.
I would go Sam Darnold plus 115. He's going to win the MVP. If Seattle can win the game 3-0 or 50-0, or this, he's going to. If Seattle wins, he's going to get the MVP. There's a feel-good vibe to him. The only pushback I would say is maybe it's a special teams play by Shaheed. He returns 2 punts for touchdowns. Yeah. And Larry Brown in Super Bowl 30 got the MVP because of 2 interceptions. I think it would take a monumental statistical game from a corner, from a linebacker, from a punt returner for Seattle. But given that I think they're going to win the game, Darnold's going to win the MVP.
Hey, I agree with you. If I wanted to, I might put a little bit of money on Jackson Smith and Njigba, but you're still going to have Darnold throwing him the ball. So unless he's making some unbelievable receptions or something like that, I think Darnold's the MVP.
Well, let me ask you guys this before we get your pick. Do the Patriots just blanket him with Christian Gonzalez all game? I mean, they have nice corners in New England. I don't think that Jackson Smith Njigba is going to be running all over the field.
No,
well, keep in mind about that front line for is Darnold going to have the time, right? And so that changes things. I like what you're saying. Could he have a bad day? Could he get shut down? I think he could. If he's got a read on him, he can shut him down. Those corners are good. They're not great, but they're good.
Yeah.
So what does that lead you to, Murph?
I wish I could tell you.
Drake May?
I'm heavy on the Patriots. I got pigeonholed into that. If the Patriots win, I think it has to be a low-scoring game. That's where I came up with my shenanigans. I think if I'm betting with money that I want compensated for, I would go Drake May in a low-scoring game.
All right.
Well, let's keep in mind, too, that in the 59 previous Super Bowls, 34 times it's been a quarterback. So it's just like the Heisman Trophy in college. It takes a lot for it to not be a quarterback.
Yeah.
I really like what Buck said about Darnold, and I think it's a very good take. Is regardless of what happens, like Sam Darnold's never going to get like the full credit, right? Say they win the game, say they lose the game. If they lose the game, it'll be on him. But I just don't ever see anybody going, Sam Darnold won us that football game. I think that's a very interesting, take on it. He just isn't getting any type of respect. He isn't the kind of player that screams, look at me and wow. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting.
Well, we're talking about quarterbacks. I wanted to share something with you guys. I put together a list of the worst Super Bowl performances by a quarterback in NFL history. This is my list. I went through the statistics, and what's interesting is of these 10, 4 of the instances are a Hall of Fame quarterback. One of them won the game. Okay, so I'm going to go down the list. I'll start with number 10.
Can I ask you a question before you go here? Yeah. And I might throw up here soon because if I got a couple I'm waiting to hear. What is your definition of worst?
Yeah, so it was all statistically based, okay?
Okay.
And a a lot of it, I looked at completion percentage, interceptions, sacks, where they sacked a lot. And I know that's not all on the quarterback, right? And then rating as well. So it was all statistical based, nothing related to going back and viewing the film. Okay. So number 10, I have from Super Bowl 33, Denver beat Atlanta 34-19. Chris Chandler for Atlanta, 19 out of 35, which is a 54% completion rate, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. He was sacked twice. That's a 47.2 rating. Okay. Not too bad, right? Not too bad, but not good. Not good. Number 9, Jim Kelly. Okay. This is Super Bowl 26 against the then Redskins. They lost 37-24. Kelly was 28 out of 58, which is 48. And by the way, if Darnold's throwing up those numbers, they're losing. 48%. He threw for 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's a 44 rating, and he was sacked 5 times. Not the kind of day you want to have.
I would add to that I read somewhere that 91-92 Washington Redskins teams is sometimes considered one of the best teams of all time. If you look statistically at that team, I don't love them, but the Mark Rippon team dominated the NFL that year.
So then I go to Super Bowl 50, which was one of my least favorite Super Bowls of all time. Had to be one of the least popular. Denver beat Carolina 24-10. Yeah, it was Peyton Manning Super Bowl, which is great. Cam Newton in that game was 18 out of 41, which is 43.9%, 265 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 6 sacks, 55 rating. I'll go to Super Bowl 22. Again, Washington beating Denver in this one, 42-10. I think this was this Timmy Smith?
Timmy Smith and Doug Williams.
Yeah. So John Elway in that game was 14 out of 38, which is a 36.8% completion percentage, 257 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. He was sacked 5 times, and that's a 36.8 rating.
Denver scored the first touchdown on a pass by John Elway.
That's right.
And then that was it.
Number 6 was the I couldn't believe this when I read this. So Super Bowl 40, Pittsburgh beat Seattle 21-10. Ben Roethlisberger, the winning quarterback in that game, 9 for 21, 42% completion percentage, 123 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His quarterback rating was 22.6.
I think Hines Ward had a better rating.
Yeah.
And it's overall one of the worst Super Bowls ever played.
It was awful.
Really, Bob?
Yeah, it's not a great Super Bowl.
Top 4 then. John Elway, Super Bowl 24. San Francisco beat Denver 55-10. Elway was 10 of 26, which is a 38.5% completion percentage, 108 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks, and a nifty 19.4 rating. We've got Super Bowl 35. The Ravens beat the Giants 34-7. Kerry Collins, 15 out of 39. 112 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 4 sacks. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a 7.1 rating. 2 more. One breaks my heart because I was a big fan of this team back in 82, 83. The Washington Redskins, they're in here a lot. Again, they beat the Dolphins 27-17. David Woodley, 4 out of 14. 28.6%. He threw for 97 yards. He did have a touchdown, 1 interception. Hey, at least his rating was 50. And then I'll get to the worst performance that I could find in Super Bowl history. Dave, you'll appreciate this one. This was Super Bowl 12. Dallas beat Denver 27-10. Craig Morton for Denver, 4 out of 15, which was 26% completion percentage. He threw for a whopping 39 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He was sacked twice. That was a 0.0 rating. So what were you thinking about, Dave? I'm curious. Did you have something in mind when I was going through the list?
Yeah, because I think there's context. So, for example, the Kerry Collins game is horrible. He was horrible, but he played against one of the 3 greatest defenses that ever played.
Of all
100%.
time. Of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so no one gave the Giants a chance in that game. They could have had Joe Montana in his prime. They weren't winning that game. That doesn't absolve Kerry Collins of all the blame, but I would argue Jared Goff in 2018 against a good New England team. I mean, Goff was 19 of 38 for 229 and an interception, and they scored 3 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
And Goff was not now. Again, statistics not everything. Go back to that Ravens game where Trent Dilfer was 12 of 25 for 153. 1 touchdown, no picks, never put the team in a bad spot, made 2 big throws, people forget, and did exactly what the doctor ordered, exactly what the team needed. I would also argue this. You know I love Troy Aikman. The game, again, context matters. The game against the Steelers, Super Bowl 30, his numbers are not great for a game they won by 10 points. His statistics personally not great. People forget because of the Larry Brown interceptions, Dallas barely had the ball in the second half because both the times his interceptions took Dallas inside the 20. So they had short fields, and there was an interception touchdown, overturned in the first half. Michael Irvin got caught with a bullshit pass interference penalty that would have made it 14-0 at the time, and it would have been Aikman's second touchdown pass. The reason I say that is not as an Aikman mark, but if you watch the games, it's not just the numbers.
Yeah.
So even though his numbers are not good in that game, it's not at all on a worst list because they were never in any danger in that game, and he played the game that was called.
Yeah.
So, and I would argue only in this with the John Elway stuff too, and your list, Jamie, Denver was outmatched in all of those games. They had a nice set of receivers, but they needed Elway to be like Superman in those games to win, and you're not going to beat Joe Montana and Bill Walsh and Jerry Rice in that kind of situation.
Yeah. Elway was very young still back then, too. So, no, totally agree. I want to turn to 2 things really quick. I want to ask you guys about the NFL MVP for the year. And there's been some questions about this. Murph, we've talked about it a little bit. You've got Matt Stafford and Drake May, I think, are probably the 1 and 2 favorites. What are your thoughts on it? Just how the season played out. You can look at the numbers, and I think if you looked at the numbers, there's some really good stuff there that you could say about May. Stafford had great numbers as well, but if you're a voter, who are you voting for?
That's sort of a loaded question. You got one guy watching the game at home and one guy playing in the game. And the game they're playing in is the ultimate prize, right? That's why you start the season, and that's where you want to end the season. I was really, really impressed with Stafford. I don't think in my mind, one loss can take that away. I think it's Matt Stafford. I do.
Matt Stafford led the league in yards, 4707, threw for 46 touchdowns, interceptions. He had, I want to say 9. He had 8 interceptions. I mean, an unbelievable year. Drake May, I'm not taking anything against Drake May. I think he had the easier schedule. We talked about that before. If you look at Drake May's numbers, second-year player, he threw for 4,394 yards right there with Stafford. He threw 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not bad numbers. Dave, what do you think?
Those are the 2 guys that are going to get the votes, that are going to get the recognition, and I could not overcome the simple fact that Matt Stafford didn't win his division. You're going to be the MVP of the NFL. They didn't win the division, yet alone the conference, yet alone the Super Bowl. I like him. He's a great guy. I can't believe he's like best friends with Clayton Kershaw, one of the coolest things in sports. Can you imagine like you 2 guys like are Hall of Fame golfers and tennis players or some shit? So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Drake May. 72% completion, 8.9 yards per pass. So he pushed the ball down the field. There is the part you say, though, about the strength of schedule. Weakest in the league. You're right. And that gives me pause. But 450 rush yards, too. And I feel like if you would have put, let's say, an average quarterback, on that Patriots team, they'd probably go like 9-8, 10-7. I thought he elevated them, and now here they're in the Super Bowl. I would go, it's a regular season award, but I would pick Drake May.
Yeah. I'll tell you, very interesting. There was a time here, kind of middle of the season, towards the end of the season, where Stafford just looking at some of these games, touchdowns and interceptions thrown. So Tampa Bay, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The next week, Seattle, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. At San Francisco, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. New Orleans, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. At Jacksonville, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, this was an unbelievable kind of streak he went on where he had, I'm just counting it up, 25 touchdowns, no interceptions between November 23rd and between September 28th and November 23rd. Unbelievable. I think the voters are probably going to lean towards Stafford, just given his history and so forth. I think you could argue that his mobility, Drake May's mobility, gives him maybe a little bit of an edge there. So then if we pivoted to 2 more awards I want to talk about, number 2 is Coach of the Year. And then I want to talk about Offensive Player of the Year. So Coach of the Year, we talked a lot about McDonald. We talked a lot about Vrabel. It's very interesting. I think all 3 of us agree that these are 2 really good coaches. Who's going to get the nod for Coach of the Year here? Buck,
Go ahead, Buck. I really don't know.
I think it's going to be Liam Cohen in Jacksonville. I thought the way they started the season was not great, and they finished on a roll. Remember, it's a regular season award. And I think he going 13-4 in a good division. Remember, we had the Colts were on fire early. The Texans came on strong late, and he won that division. And the best thing he did was regain Trevor Lawrence's confidence going forward and belief in that organization. I think Liam Cohen's the Coach of the Year.
Murph?
I think Buckler's in sales. I think he sells stuff. I mean, I can't argue with that. I was sitting there racking my brain who I would think about, but when you gave the argument that you did in the division they played in, I would go with that. And to steady that ship and finish the way they did, I think, and it's a regular season award, so I have no problem with that.
It's really interesting. I mean, they did finish strong. You look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins in a row to finish the regular season. Now, I will say, look at those 8 games. Raiders, Texans, a divisional game. Chargers, tough game. Titans, Colts, Jets, Colts, Titans, and then the Broncos.
But again, nobody's good. That was kind of what we talked about at the beginning. Everybody is average. Yeah. I mean, the Cowboys played twice against the Commanders, twice against the Giants. We played a whole bunch of trash teams, too. The NFL is like 80% garbage, if we're just being honest. Teams that are really, really average football teams.
Yeah. I am going to go with Vrabel. To me, you take a team in New England that I think everybody thought they were going to be a better, right? 6-win team, maybe 7-win team. They were a really good team this year. Mike Vrabel, really good coach. I'll lean on Vrabel there. Offensive Player of the Year. So, again, this is an award that typically I think they try to say, hey, let's look at somebody other than quarterbacks here.
I feel the same way about that award.
Yeah. So there's a couple, you could look at a Puka Nacua, right? He's the best receiver in football. One of maybe 2 or 3 great receivers in football. Murph, any thoughts on Offensive Player of the Year?
The Puka or whatever. That's who I was
Puka
going
Nacua.
to say. Well, only because I already talked about Stafford, right? So I'm sort of like, that was a team that I actually watched quite a bit of, and he is phenomenal. Some of the plays he made, and I do think, like you said, the Offensive Player of the Year traditionally, right, isn't a quarterback. It's like the MVP goes right to the quarterback, and then it's like you pick a different position. That's who I would say, Jamie. I have to be honest with you. I wasn't necessarily ready for those 2, but I would go with him. I have no problem with that.
I've got this man crush on Jackson Smith and Najigba. But, I look at his numbers, 119 catches for 1,793 yards and 10 touchdowns. And he's been really good in the playoffs, right? 13 catches, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. I do look at Puka Nacua's numbers, though. 129 catches for 1,715 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's crazy. I'd probably lean Puka Nacua as well here, Kevin. So I'm in agreement with you. Dave, what do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to push back on you guys. The Offensive Player of the Year is Christian McCaffrey with the Niners. I mean, he had 102 catches himself for running back. That's unbelievable. 1,200 yards rushing. But keep this in mind, in the total to 17 touchdowns, over 2,000 combined yards. He did this with his starting quarterback missing a large chunk of the season. None of us really like Brock Purdy all that much to begin with, not to mention all the injuries and the knuckleheads that are the wide receivers for the 49ers on that team. I think if the 49ers don't have Christian McCaffrey, they're a 5-win team. That might be a slight overstatement, but I think he's going to win the award, and deservedly so. Tremendous versatility.
Yeah. I still think it's Jonathan Taylor, but I'll give up on that, I guess.
Is Troy Aikman still playing?
Yeah. Maybe if I look at Jonathan Taylor's first 8 games, could we just look at it in a vacuum like that?
I think McCaffrey gets caught in a trap of his own doing. I just think we've seen him be so good for so long.
Man,
and what he does is so impressive at the position he does it at. And Buck, your point to playing without Purdy, who was the starting quarterback, not a great one, but not a elite one. Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of mystery on how you beat the 49ers when you take a quarterback out of the equation, right? And for him to still have the numbers, you're right. That was a heck of a season when you put that body of work and the situations around it together. Yeah. I think Buckler's right, actually. I'm more to the running back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie, real quick, you didn't mention Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, can we all agree it was Myles Garrett with Cleveland? Was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Breaks the sack record, but it's not just that. It's the pressure that he puts on them. Yeah. It's a shame. I keep saying, like, Kevin, we talked about it. Kevin Stefanski, I think we felt bad for the guy. It's like if he had any inkling of a good quarterback or some good offensive players, like that team's defense is really good.
Well, he had 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks this year, didn't he? Shedeur Sanders and Joe Flacco?
I thought Stefanski got sort of a raw deal. I think he earned the right for one more year with what they put on the field and who he had to work with. I just thought they pulled the cord a little early with that.
I think Phillip Rivers should have made the Pro Bowl personally, but I'll let that go. Him and his 3 games that he played. So obviously there's a lot of prop bets that come up during the Super Bowl, a lot of fun things that you can bet on. I picked a couple here that actually I didn't pick it based on creativity or fun. I just picked it based on, hey, I think these things could actually happen, and asked you guys to do a couple as well. I'll start. There was one out here that said any quarterback to record 300 plus passing yards. And I do think if there's going to be a quarterback that does that, I think it's going to be Darnold. And I really liked it. It was plus 260. So I felt pretty good about that. So that was one. Kevin, did you have one that you liked? Was it the national anthem going over 90 seconds? What? Yeah.
I've watched, I don't know, it feels like 40 Super Bowls with Mike Wilt, my buddy, my go-to. And he gave me 2 that he says usually hit. And it's first half, fewer points than second half. And his second one is always, to me, I find the most interesting because it's a feast or famine. No points in the first 5.5 minutes.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Now he's about as close to a professional gambler that I know. And so I asked him a favor. Those were the 2 he came up with. That was the Wilt Dog, his 2 automatic go-to prop bets.
I want to ask you though, Kevin, the one about more points in the second half. I find that interesting. First of all, because sometimes teams are chasing, right? So that now you're down by 20, you gotta score. Whereas, but I think the interesting about the first half is sometimes teams are nervous, and so a guy misses a block or slips a tackle on the special teams and they get a couple. It's interesting. People can be more mistake prone early, and that could lead to an easy touchdown.
Sure.
Right.
That's what I meant by. You can see it either way, right?
Right.
If somebody makes that mistake, it's gone.
In the first half, they always say, like, Sean Payton scripts all his, Colin Cowherd always says the first half is on script, the second half is playmakers as the game evolves. So that's an interesting 2 that you brought up there. Very fun. The 5.5 minutes, too. Now I'll be thinking about that on Sunday.
That's great.
What do you like, Buck?
I love that. I'm sorry, Jamie, I don't know the odds on them.
Yeah.
I love Drake May over 0.5 interceptions. I would be stunned if he doesn't throw an interception on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's just 0.5, doesn't throw one. He could have a great game. I think he's going to throw one. Seattle has a nice defensive backfield. And I love Sam Darnold under 35.5 longest pass.
Under 35.5.
I don't see them. I mean, I think he's going to have a nice game. I just don't think he's going to go up top, deep, deep, deep. And we talked about having time to throw. So I see a lot of crossing routes. I see a lot of like creative play calling, but not a lot of like, run to the end zone.
Yeah. Maybe I like their playmakers more. I could see them going, doing a bomb for a touchdown or at least
Well, they're going to at least have to try one, right? So
Yeah,
you're going to have a shot at it.
Keep them honest.
My worst Super Bowl beat on prop bets was measurements of a first down, 1.5. I took over. I was never more confident that it has to happen. It just makes sense, right? It's got to happen. And this was like 12 years ago. This is before all the, stuff's going on. Probably not 12, but you know where I'm going with it. But yeah, that was a tough one. I have another tough one. It was Trent Dilfer and the Ravens playing in the Super Bowl. I took a look at that offense, and first touchdown scored, Brandon Stokely was like, I don't know, $80,000 to one or something. And I loved it. And everything I thought would happen. Like, the offense would go there and they just sneak that little guy out on the backside. And that's exactly what happened. I predicted it and I never bet it. And
you didn't bet it?
I didn't. And I live with it to this day. So Kyle Williams is the name I want you to circle. He'll have very good odds. First touchdown. Kyle Williams.
I like it.
I always think it's interesting to bet on an MVP. You look at their punt returners or kick returners, and could this be a 7-3 final, a 10-3 final, or something? And you've got that kick returner for a touchdown. I've never bet it. I'm not going to bet it, but
you guys are a little bit better.
What's that, Dave?
I was just going to say my big win was Hines Ward.
Oh,
because I felt there was a very good chance he could throw one and catch one.
Oh yeah.
You know who he caught one from?
Yes, I do. Don't tell me. It was there. It was like off a wide receiver.
Indiana quarterback.
Yeah.
Can I know who it
Randall is. L. What's his L. Randall?
Antoine.
Yeah.
Antoine
Randall L. Yep.
The last great quarterback.
I just want to say,
you
guys are better at the gambling than I am, and I usually am all excited about it in like September, and then I get my nuts kicked in, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And the moment this year my whole season ended was when the Rams were in Philly controlling the entire game, and they go for the winning field goal, and I said, all that can happen, just don't block the kick and return it for a touchdown. And the Eagles blocked the kick, and he ran it back for a touchdown. I said,
that's when you're done. That's when you're done. I agree. Go to hockey betting. It's better. I'm telling you. Hockey's better. Well, listen, Murph, Buckler, it is great to have you guys on. We're going to have to do this again sometime. It was a lot of fun. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Thanks for joining the show, and we will talk sometime soon.
I got to bring my A game. You guys are loaded. You guys got it all figured out. And I'm just sitting in the middle. I'm a rose between two thorns trying to make it look sensible. I
don't know, Kevin, when we're all hitting on that 5.5 in the first quarter.
We've got nothing figured out. I promise.
My daughter needs braces.
All right. So that is it for this podcast. Huge thanks to both Kevin Murphy and David Buckler. As I said earlier, two of my great friends of all time. A lot of listeners of this podcast or people that watch on YouTube know Kevin and Dave. Obviously been friends since high school. So great to reconnect with them on this podcast, talking sports, talking about all the things that we love, and just really means a lot. So if you're interested in joining the show to do something similar, whether it's sports, pop culture, entertainment, just email me, jamie@tellusellis.com, and follow my social media channels as well on X and on Instagram @TellusEllisHQ. And of course on YouTube, click the subscribe button. You can follow me @TellusEllisMedia. Thanks so much for watching the show and enjoy the Super Bowl. Thank you, everybody.